Good afternoon. Welcome to Bloomerang Academy. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the third in our series of our complete recurring giving roadmap. If you missed the first two, that was creating and managing a recurring gifts program, as well as loving your recurring donors. Today, we are talking about keeping your recurring donors. And in about 3 weeks, we're going to be talking about upgrading your recurring donors. My name is Diana Otero. I will be your host and co-presenter for today. Our main presenter today is Erica Wasdorp. I know she blushes a little bit when I say this, but Erica is our recurring giving queen. And she literally wrote the book on recurring giving. She wrote Monthly Giving, The Sleeping Giant, which you'll have a chance to win in our raffle by being with us today. Welcome, Erica.
Hi, Diana. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Erica, for joining us today. I know we have a lot of great content to cover, so please take it away.
Great. And again, Diana and I will sort of pop in and out every now and then. Diana has a lot of great examples and reports that you can use in Bloomerang especially. So today we're going to talk about something that's probably the most boring part of monthly giving of recurring donors, but it's also, in my view, it's almost one of the more important parts of recurring donors and keeping them and really growing your recurring giving program. If you do it right here, this is where the rubber meets the road, if they say so. But again, it's not as fancy, it's not as exciting as cultivation or stewarding or acquisition, but it's a really crucial part of keeping your recurring donors growing. So what we're going to talk about today is how can you even track how your program is doing? What's your recurring donor retention rate, right? We're going to look at like a payment failure dashboard and really how to be on top of payment failures. I mean, that's again really, really crucial. And then we're going to also look at like the fact that just because somebody is not paying their monthly gifts at the moment, it doesn't mean that you can't bring them back, right? So you can absolutely incorporate some of your past recurring donors and try to bring them back. And then finally, because I know people say this all the time too, it's like, well, yeah, I know this is important, but I'm so busy. And the reality is we're going to show you how you can actually track the value of keeping your recurring donors. Like what's your time worth, if you will, what you're able to generate more of if you do this right. So we're going to give it over to Diana, who's going to talk about the ways to find retention.
Thanks, Erica. I'm going to steal the presentation here for a little
Hmm.
bit while I jump into the database as well. So there's two reports that we want to take a look at today. And I'm going to show you these reports in Bloomerang, but really, regardless of whatever CRM you use, these are good reports for you to take a look at. So first, we're going to take a look at recurring schedules that are over a year old. So this looks at not your new recurring gifts, but recurring gifts that started over a year ago, because we want to take a look at, okay, it's been a year or the schedule has been going on for a year. What is the status now? Are they still giving? Is it active? Are they overdue? And how much has been given in total? And when's the next payment date? I have a report that's set up here in Bloomerang. So I have recurring schedules over 1 year. The filter that I'm using for this is type is recurring donation schedule. And I'm looking at any schedules that are still active or overdue that was not started in the previous 365 days. Again, I'm trying to look at schedules that were started or recurring donations that were started over a year ago and how are they doing today.
Yeah, it's usually
And
like, and just like to add to that, like 13-month is sort of an industry best practice to look at retention. So how many donors, how many recurring donors are still giving in the second year, basically?
so this report is telling me that I have 14 recurring donations that were started over a year ago and are still going. So that's what we have there. And this shows you the amount or the value of how much are they giving on a recurring basis and how much have they given total. So you can see from my report here, for example, I have over 5,000 in recurring gifts, and over 20,000 has been paid out of those 5,000. So you can imagine if you can keep retaining these donors year over year, that's like over 4 times what you would be getting if they just gave one time. And you can tell here that I have some of these donations that have been going on for quite a while. There are some that have started in 2012, 2013. There are some that have started in 2019. This is my pretend database, so of course my older ones are now overdue. And hopefully you do a better job of keeping up with your recurring donors than I do. But this will also tell you if it's overdue, or if it's current. And it will also tell you the next scheduled date. When are you expected to receive their next payment? So if there's any follow-up that you need to do, or if you see that it's overdue, maybe you need to give them a call and make some updates. The other report that I wanted to look at is recurring donation payments. How are they doing 5 years, over 5 years? So this is looking at donors who have started a recurring donation in every year, and it compares what their revenue is or what their payments are for each year. Again, since this is my pretend database, my recurring donations are older, but this can also tell you, for example, Acme Corporation has given a total of $2,100 across 21 payments starting in 2016, for example. And if this was still current, it would show you what their payments were in each year. So this is also a good way to check how your recurring donations are going, especially if you have recurring donors that have been giving for a while, or if you have a recurring donor program or recurring giving program that has been going on for a couple of years. And you can see how that's been growing each year, and you can compare the totals for each year. And those are some of the reports that we recommend you run.
Yeah. So keeping them, you know, that's a process, right? So, and again, so starting with looking at the retention report is a great way to say, okay, well, how's my program doing overall? And especially, obviously, if you just started last year, it's too soon to kind of see that trend over 5 years. But that 13-month time frame is a really good indicator. And again, if you look at some of the industry statistics, like some benchmarks, like sustainer benchmarking from that Blackbaud does, or some M&R strategic, and some of these other benchmarks that we're now starting to see, is like that 13-month time frame is a really important one. So how do you keep them, right? You got to look at it as part of your process. It's something that you have to do, but it's really exciting if you can keep more of these recurring donors, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about like hard cancels and soft cancels and what the difference is. We're going to look at like having a call script in place, having some emails in place, some letters, and then again, tracking the value of the reactivation that you're doing. So in the handouts that I believe, Diana, are going to be sent out tomorrow, as you know, so there's like a little PowerPoint slide that you can use. You can print it out, or you can literally like use it on your in your PowerPoint program that says, okay, do me a favor, take a minute and write down what your current process flow is. What are you doing when a credit card declines or rejects? Because the bulk of the retention problems will come from credit card or debit card recurring donors. So if you can get somebody to come in via electronic funds transfer, ACH, direct debit, they come in from your bank account, the retention rate of those is higher, but also you don't have to worry about those expiring credit cards every couple of years, right? So, but do me a favor and write this down. Again, it sounds silly, but I do this with organizations small and large. And a lot of times it's like, oh, I didn't know we were doing this. Hey, we're not doing that. So it just kind of helps you saying, okay, what happens? So if the credit card declines, maybe you can, again, and if you have Bloomerang, you can see it exactly yourself. But in some cases, if you're not using Bloomerang, it may be that somebody in finance says, hey, I just got information that this card didn't go through, right? So maybe you're saying, okay, I always send an email the first day, then I send a letter out within the next 48 hours. I try calling within 48 hours, and then you wait and say, okay, well, if the donor doesn't respond within 10 days, then I may need to make a second call, blah, 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 blah. So fill in the blanks, right? So just create the current process flow. And then we're going to discuss about a couple of things that I think will help you probably improve your process flow even more. But before I do that, I want to just kind of like give an indication, because again, people sometimes like don't necessarily know what the difference is. So a hard cancel, in my definition, is it's a donor who calls you, writes you, or emails you and says, I do not want to continue my recurring gift. So they take action, right? So they actively let you know that they do not want to do this. Now, just because they send you something or call doesn't necessarily mean that they're lost yet. There are ways that you can try to save them. So if they call, that's a great opportunity to say, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What is your reason for wanting to cancel? And sometimes if they say, well, it's financial, with this whole COVID, I just don't know what's going on. Well, maybe you can give them the option to go for a lower recurring amount, right? And somebody might say, oh, geez, I didn't even know I could do that, right? So, and of course they can do that. Of course they can go for a lower amount, right? So you've just saved them, right? And I can tell you that when COVID happened last year, a lot of organizations had what they call like a save script in place, and they were able to save 25 to 30% of the donors that contacted them wanting to cancel because of the whole situation, right? So they just offered them the lower amount or less frequent. Maybe if they have a monthly gift, maybe they want to go to quarterly. Maybe they want to go on a pause and say, can I contact you in 6 months or a year when your situation might have changed? So the fact that the donor calls you is an indicator that they care. It's almost like they want to give you the option to talk them out of it, right? So just consider that as an opportunity. If they call, they care. So hard cancels, the donor takes the initiative. As I mentioned, a save option is a great option. So if you have people that are answering the phones in your organization, make sure that they have access to this little script. And there's actually like a special retention support kit that is part of the handouts that you're going to get tomorrow as well. So there's a save option in there. And of course, you can customize this to your heart's content, but it just helps you to say, oh, okay, I never even thought about offering that option. But donors want to help. Donors don't want to cancel if they have another option, right? So give them that. Now, there's also this thing, what I call soft cancel. The donor wants to keep giving. They did not contact you, but their payment stops. It just doesn't come in, right? And it's typically because they got a new card, or, like their card expired, they forgot they got a new card, or there was a problem, they got a new card, and again, they forgot to let you know, right? So, and again, some of the credit card companies, they actually say, hey, here's a list of recurring payments. You may want to contact them to let them know that your card changed. But most, I've seen that only, I think, one credit card company that's done that. So most of them don't even let you know, right? So you have to really be proactive about this. So if the payment stops, it's a soft cancel. The donor wants to keep giving. So we as fundraisers, we have to just basically give them the option and the courtesy to let them know that their payment didn't come in. So I recommend that you pick a day each month to find out what those possible soft cancels are ahead of time. And again, Bloomerang has a great report for that.
So we're going to show you a couple of reports here and some built-in tools with within Bloomerang to help you with these. So first we want to take a look at, you want to get ahead of those soft cancels. We'll take a look at two reports for that. We're going to take a look at credit cards that are expiring next month, as well as any schedules that are already overdue. Because if they're already overdue, they've missed a payment, it's a good indicator that you want to start checking on them. But I wanted to preface this as well with, if you have Stripe Connect connected to Bloomerang, Stripe Connect has an automatic card updater. So if the donor gets a new card or gets their card changed and Stripe is able to find the new card details, that will automatically get updated. So that's a great feature of Stripe Connect. You don't need to pay extra for that. That comes with Stripe Connect automatically. So that will catch any of those changes in the payment details. But if you like to get ahead of that and you want to see what's expiring next month, and also you can use it as an extra touch point with the donor, it's always good to check in with them as well. You can create this report in Bloomerang to filter for credit cards that are expiring this next month. What I love about this as well is because you're creating this report in Bloomerang, you can schedule this report to get sent out. So if you have someone on staff or a board member or a volunteer who can make those calls for you and reach out to those donors, you can get this report delivered to their inbox at a certain time frame, let's say at the end of the month. For next month. So what you see here as I'm filtering for credit card expiration is next month. And next month, this is a dynamic filter. So that's going to be based on whenever you run the report or whenever the report is sent. So for example, today is April. This is going to show me credit cards that are going to be expiring in May. If this report gets run in May, it's going to show you credit cards that are expiring in June. And you don't need to make changes to the report. It's automatically going to pick that up.
Can you only forward 1 month?
That's a great question.
Okay.
So when you try, so right now, it's showing that in my database, I have 2 credit cards that are expiring next month. I can click Save and Schedule Report. I can choose if this is a report that I'm only going to send one time, or if it's a report that I would like to go out on a schedule. So if I only want it to do that once, it will ask me for the date as well as the time for it to be sent out. Or if I want someone to be on top of it on a monthly basis, let's say maybe I want to send it out like a week before, maybe the 21st of every month. So they have a week to contact those donors and get ahead of that credit card that's expiring next month. So let's say for this one, we're going to schedule it for 8 a.m. a week before the month ends. You can choose if the person needs to have a Bloomerang login to view the report or not. In either case, what's going to happen with the report is it's going to email them an Excel spreadsheet of who is in the report. So when you build the report, you want to make sure it has the gift details. It also has the contact information of the donor if you want them to be calling the donor. The recipients you can select. It'll have a list of your Bloomerang users, but you can send it to non-Bloomerang users as well. So if you have board members or volunteers that will be doing this for you, you can send it to them. They don't need to have access to your Bloomerang database to receive the Excel file. You can put in your subject, for example, expiring credit cards next month. I like to put in what I actually want to happen in the content. So let's say, please give them a call before the cards expire. Mm-hmm. And there's even a great option here. Let's say we don't have any cards that are set to expire every month. You can click this so they don't get an email. There's nothing to do. But you can save and schedule that. and you can see here it's scheduling monthly. You can always change the schedule up if you want. If you go back to your report list, it's also going to show you the schedule there, so you know that's going out. We have a question here. Do these reports work if you use Fundraise Up with Bloomerang, or really any integration with Bloomerang? Since you're building those reports in Bloomerang, you can send them out anytime. As long as if you use one of those integrations, the information is getting pushed into Bloomerang. And if that information is Bloomerang, you can run a report on it. You can schedule the report to go out. We also have another report here for overdue recurring schedules. And this is great so whenever you start a recurring donation with Bloomerang, you have that option to auto process, which is wonderful because you don't have to think about it every month, right? It just processes according to schedule. So the system knows this is how much to process when. But there are some instances where you have schedules that don't auto process. Maybe the donor sends in a check every month or every so often. This is a good report to run if they're not auto processing. So you can see here, this is similar to the previous report that we have. It's looking for type is recurring donation schedule. That is overdue. We want to take a look at where the method is none, cash, check, or EFT. We're going to take a look here in a little bit our credit card payment failures, which is only for credit card because we can't quite get that information back if it's processed via EFT. So if you have any of that, this report can show you what's overdue. So as soon as a payment is missed, that donor and that recurring donation is going to appear on this report. And that's always what we recommend. As soon as a payment is missed, don't wait for several payments to get missed. As soon as a payment is missed, you want to catch that right away and recapture that right away. And you can do the same thing and schedule this email to go out to the donors as well. We have a question here. Can we also get the report is being sent to another person to be able to follow up and be sure calls are made into whom? Absolutely. You can, the schedule that we said earlier, I had that going to myself. You can add other people as well. So it's kind of like you're getting CC'd on the email, you're getting that report as well. Thank you for that. Thank you for those questions. The next thing that I wanted to show is our credit card payment failures dashboard. Those two reports are great if you want to get ahead on it before they expire or before you lose the recurring donation. But we also wanted to emphasize you need to look at the annual value at risk if you lose these monthly donors, because even if it's just $5 a month, $10 a month, multiplied over 12 months, multiplied over how many years that they've been giving, all of that is going to add up. So you want to take a look at what that value is. We had a question here earlier. How do you know if you have any payment failures in Bloomerang? Well, the system will tell you. So if you go up here to the notification icon, you can see here, mine tells me that I have 12 credit card payment failures. As soon as a recurring donation fails, you're going to get this alert in Bloomerang. And what you want to do is check on it right away. So this is telling me a couple of things. First, it's telling me what is my fiscal year revenue at risk. And it's going to take a look at, okay, these are the ones that are going to be processing automatically. So for example, this one is $50 a month. How many months do I still have left in my fiscal year? And if those payments continue to fail, how much am I losing if I don't get this fixed? So it's telling me that all of these transactions are going to amount to...
It was a lot of money. It was a lot of money.
It was a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. So
I think my computer is processing. Yeah, that's a lot of money. Yeah. So that's $2,000 that my organization is missing out on if we don't resolve these payment failures. Now, a good thing is, and we'll do this today so we can take a look at it, if you are able to recapture any of those recurring donations, it tells you too. So you can see here, this tells you that I've had some payments that have failed before. I was able to recapture them, and I was able to recapture 12,500. That's no joke. That's a lot of money for our mission, right? So you want to catch that right away. So I wanted to tell you a little bit, how do you read this screen? So this shows you unresolved payment failures. And again, this is for credit cards, because we don't get that information back from the EFT right away, but we're able to get that back from the credit card payment failures right away. This doesn't just work for recurring donations, it also works for pledge payments. So anytime you have auto processing in the database, if you have auto processing, we can tell if there's a failure. You know that it's a pledge or a recurring donation if the pledge balance will show you a pledge, and the rest of these are recurring donations. Now, a couple of things that you'll see here, you'll see the recurring amount, the date, as well as the processor response. So the processor response, this comes directly from the processor. So it can be as specific as your card's expiration year is invalid, the expiration month is invalid, AVS decline, address verification, or it could be something like card declined, very vague. For whatever reason, the card didn't go through when it was meant to be processed. We're just going to tell you what the processor says. I wanted to point out as well, there's two differences here. This one is next scheduled payment. This one says retrying automatically. Let's take a look at that one first. So let's say we want to resolve this payment failure. We're just going to go here and click resolve. So you can see here that it typically processes on Saturdays. It's weekly on Saturdays, so it looks like it failed. It failed last Saturday. I wanted to point this out where it says last payment status. There's a couple of statuses that you'll see here. First one is it's going to say at risk. Why does it say at risk? It says at risk because Bloomerang is going to retry whenever there's a payment failure. Bloomerang is going to retry that same card for the next every other day for the next 7 days. Maybe it was just a glitch in the system, maybe the internet was down. We don't really know what happened, but we're going to retry. Maybe it was just it didn't process on that day for whatever reason. We're going to try again. So if it says at risk, we're still within that 7-day retrying period. So this is also a good gauge where I mentioned earlier where Stripe Connect has auto updater for the credit card. Maybe Stripe hasn't picked up that the card has been updated yet. They could be within this period. We're going to try again. Another status that you might see here is if it says failed. If something says failed, it means it's beyond the 7-day period. We tried on the schedule, we retried within 7 days, it still didn't go through, it's going to say failed. Now, whenever there's a failure, it's always going to try on the next schedule. If it's a monthly schedule, it's going to try again next month, but we always have that 7-day retrying period. Now, I'm afraid to click schedule here. What I'm probably going to see is I've gotten a lot of failures, right? The card was working well before, and then I've gotten a lot of failures. Don't panic. This is my pretend database, so I set this up to be this way. But you get that notification, you get that alert up here as soon as there's a failure. So what you're going to want to do is catch that. As soon as there's a failure, you want to do something about it so you don't end up like this, where you have a backlog of all these payments that were missed. So what you're going to want to do here is, if it's already telling me that the card is expired, I can update the card or enter a new card. So let's say we're going to enter a new card. You enter in those card details. And when you're ready to save, you have the option to save and go to timeline, or save and reprocess failed payment. If you save and go to timeline, it's not going to process the card right now. It's just going to save that new card so that the next time it processes, it's going to use that new card. If you save and reprocess failed payment, it's going to process the card as soon as we click this. Now, you might have the question of, in my case here where I have several payment failures, is it going to process all of those failed payments? It is not. It is only going to process the most recent payment. We don't want to shock the donor if there's
Mm-hmm.
been several
Mm-hmm.
payments missed
Yeah.
and suddenly charge them all of those things, right? That's why we tell you as soon as there's a payment failure, so we can catch that right away and get it resolved right away before the payment failures pile up. Now, we understand we're human and things happen, and sometimes we don't get to it right away. In that case, you can always call the donor and say, from our experience talking to our customers, what we've heard the response to be is the donors will say, go ahead and process the most recent payment. I'll send you a check for the other missed payments, or you can make arrangements for that. Your recurring donors are already invested in you and your organization. They are more than happy to keep giving within their capacity. And so don't be afraid to call them. And again, it's another touch point with the donor. So that's the credit card payment failures. So again, as soon as there's a failure, you'll get that notification right away. Don't be like me with my pretend donors. Luckily, these are pretend donors. And don't let those payment failures pile up. I wanted to show really quickly. So that was when it said it was retrying. So when we see here, this has already failed. This is the one where I was saying earlier, it's already past the 7-day period. It's still going to try again every month because that's what the schedule is. But if it's failed, it's past the 7-day retrying period. So this is a great option for you. Again, you don't have to think about it every month. If you built that relationship with the donor and they've given you their credit card info, that will just happen every month. And if anything should happen and there's a payment failure, you can get alerted and act on it right away. Another report that I wanted to show you today is, again, in line with looking at the annual value at risk if you lose these monthly donors. We have a report template in Bloomerang called projected revenue. And of course, what gifts in your database have projected revenue? That's your pledges and recurring donations. You can take a look at both, or you can just take a look at recurring revenue specifically. But what I love about this is it will give you can put side by side, you can take a look at what is the value of that. What is this? This is the recurring amount, $50. You can also take a look at, this is what has been paid total. And again, this is great if it's a recurring donation that's been going on for a while. What is the projected revenue for this fiscal year? Right? So for this recurring donation schedule, it's $600 for this fiscal year, $300 of which has already been paid. So this is great because it gives you a sense of, so far, this is the total value of this recurring gift, right? And if anything happens to this, if this should stop right now or fail for whatever reason, we're potentially missing out on another. Yes, it's $50 a month. It might only be $300 this year, but over the lifetime of this recurring gift, it's already added up to that much. So think about the potential of what you're going to get, not just for this year, but continuing as well.
So thanks for all of that. That's great. Yeah. Okay. So, and again, what I love about the Bloomerang reports is the fact that you can get ahead of the game. Okay. So pick a date, say the 15th of the month, right? Or the second Monday, the first Monday of the month, whatever it is, right? And say, okay, let me take a look at those payments that might expire next month, right? So send them an email, give them a call and saying, it looks like your card is about to expire. Can you give me the updated information? And then you can run a report of those payment failures. And again, it looks like that only pops up if you have an actual payment failure, right? So if there's nothing there, great, you're in luck, right? You don't have to worry about anything that month. But yeah, so I guess the thing is, like, with these soft cancels, as I call them, right? So they want to continue, right? So think about, like, you're doing the donor a service. It's a courtesy to them to let them know that their card is about to expire, because they may have just gotten their new card in the mail and they say, oh yeah, yeah, the only change is this, it's just typically the expiration date, right? So that's like a really good, you're not a nag. And again, it's worth a lot of money, right? Especially as you're growing your recurring giving program. So you really don't want to wait. You want to send them some emails. You want to send them a letter. You want to call them. You may be able to text them. And then you've got that credit card account updater process through Stripe Connect. So, and then you want to repeat this as well. And as part of your process, say again, obviously the more money a recurring donor gives, like I was talking to somebody today and they got like $1,000 a month recurring donor, right? So it's totally worth it to get a hold of that donor right away, right? But yeah, just like make that part of your process and say, this is what I'm going to do as part of that process flow. And then two, like, who am I going to schedule that report to? Who is that going to go to? And oh, by the way, if that person is not there on the 15th to send out an email, is somebody else able to pick it up? So if you have that process flow laid out, it will help everybody that's working on this program, and almost like make it like a win, like, hey, we were able to reactivate, like get the information from so many recurring donors, so if it's worth XYZ money, right? So you're just like, look at it as it's a courtesy to the donor. So in that retention, book, the recurring retention book that you're going to get, there's like a letter there, there's an email there. You get a link to an update page. You can set that up as well. You can have them just call you with their updated information. You can send letters. Again, you can do a mail merge based on that Excel spreadsheet that comes out that you can schedule, right? So once you have that report, you can do a lot of things with it, but don't wait. Send it out as soon as possible. You can put a reply form and an envelope in there as well, so that you can get them some updated information. And then absolutely, donors are okay with getting a phone call, right? And you can leave a message. That's okay as well, because a lot of people are not necessarily answering their phones, but you can say who you are and then that you would like to talk to them about their recurring gift. And then again, if you talk to the donor, then you can totally get that updated information. And sometimes you might actually be surprised. They might say, oh, I can actually do a little bit more. So you might get an upgrade from them, right? So that courtesy call is totally worth it. Have that phone script ready. If you've got to delegate this to somebody, make sure that you make it easy for them, what to say. And again, it doesn't have to be very complicated, but just be very grateful, because again, they are giving you a lot of money. Text messages are getting more common right now, but you want to make sure that you have permission for them as well. So after you heard all this, so I recommend that you take that process flow and now fill in the blanks and saying, on this date, I'm going to run that upcoming expiration date report that Diana mentioned. And then on that same date, I'm also going to look at those payments that failed. I'm going to look and see if there was any payment failures, right? And then who are you going to delegate to? Well, what are you going to do when? And then map it out. And ultimately, the goal is that you get so many monthly donations that you keep, right? And that's the key. You're keeping more monthly donors. So that's again, this is not very sexy. This is not very exciting, but it can be, so this is really where the rubber meets the road, and you got a lot of tools here to help you do that. So when it comes to next steps, it's really like, start with where you're at right now, right? What's your retention look like? If you've had a program for a while, how are those monthly donors retaining, right? So on average, You should be looking at like maybe 60 to 80% of your recurring donors that you keep if they are giving you by credit card. If it's electronic funds transfer, it's even higher, right? So those are just a couple of benchmarks, but don't worry if it's lower, it might just be that you didn't do much to bring them back. So I recommend if you have people whose payment failed and they were not active hard cancels, right? So their payment didn't go through. Pick up the phone 6 months after, even a year later, and say, hey, just want to check in, and we miss you as a recurring donor. And then sometimes donors just don't remember. I mean, I was looking at my taxes in January, and there were several monthly gifts that I hadn't been paying since April. I have to admit it. They had not, and nobody had reminded me. So I didn't, I don't look at my statement every month. I'm really bad. So, so had they picked up the phone, I would have given them my updated information, right? So check your retention reports and then create that recurring process flow and share it with whomever needs to do it. And then make sure that, again, you show them the value saying this month, here's the goal of how much money we can keep for our mission if we bring everybody back, right? Create your retention scripts, your emails, your letters. I mean, that's going to take a little bit of time if you don't have it in place, but once you have it, you've got that automated schedule report, and it's just a matter of doing a mail merge in it and sending it out. Check your upcoming credit card expiration reports and your failed payments report, and then look at your annual value at risk reports as well. So there's and again, it sounds silly, but having that value is a really, really big motivator. Because sometimes people say, well, yeah, it's just 2 monthly donors. It's not a big deal. And it's like, well, oh yeah, but it could be like worth $1,500, right? So now all of a sudden it's like a mid-level or a major donor, right? So if you do all these things, if you just commit to really like working on it, you're going to keep your recurring donors, and you're going to keep improving that recurring donor retention. And that's what counts, right? That's what we're talking about. We want to keep those recurring donors because the donors want to keep giving. So they're there for you. They want help. And Diane, I don't know if you want to say anything more about some of the resources.
Yes, of course, you're going to get a link to this recording and the slides. We also have, I love this flow, this process flow that Erica has shared with us, because really you can personalize that for what works with your organization. We had a question earlier of, what if it just says card declined? Should I call them now? What should I do? And I had mentioned, one thing you can look at is it might still be in that retrying period. So maybe you're willing to wait a little bit to see if it will process again when we retry. But as to how long you're going to wait, I don't know. That's going to be a conversation between you and everyone else in your organization. So it's
I would
important.
recommend not wait too long. So like, I
Yes.
mean, maybe 7 days to your point, but
Yes.
you're better off like having sort of that overlap, and you could put in the letter something like, if you've already responded, just disregard this letter type of thing. We're really grateful, something like that. So, and the same with an email. So you can do workarounds, but because you want them to continue, right?
Yeah. And you want to document those processes in case, someone's out and you have someone filling in, so they know what to do when something like this happens. So you'll get all of these resources. We love sharing our resources with everyone. And if you have, this is kind of our question time now as well. So if you have any additional questions, please let us know.
Yeah,
But
and I see a couple there. So let's see. And I think the other thing, I don't know if you want to do the raffle right now. So yeah.
yes, so we are also raffling off a copy of Erica's book, Monthly Giving, The Sleeping Giant. Um, and I was thinking we'll do something different today. For the previous class, we just kind of looked at your registration number when you registered, but we're going to have a little fun contest for you today. So get your fingers ready to type. I'm going to ask a really simple question, and whoever gets the first to type in the correct answer wins a copy of this book. What is the name of our lovely friend over here? Oh, wonderful. That was quick. Thank you so much, Janelle. I'm going to reach out via email or to just get your mailing address, and we can make sure to send you a copy of this book. Thank you so much.
That's great.
Now we're going to go back to some question time. And also, I see some engagement in the chat as well. If there are questions that you would like to ask each other, you can do that in the chat and everybody can respond. There's also a question, Erica. What if they would like to buy a copy of the book?
Oh, okay. You can just go to my website, adirectsolution.com, and look for it. You see the book on the homepage. Or you can just go to Amazon and do monthly giving, The Sleeping Giant. So yes, but I mean, the whole purpose of this is not to sell a book. It's
No.
just like to show you, like, it's just a nice giveaway. So because you all are doing such an amazing job with recurring gifts, so I'm really excited about the growth in that. So yeah, it will help you a lot.
Yes, we're big believers in recurring giving. So no purchase necessary
No
for
purchase necessary, correct.
these
Yes. Yeah.
classes.
But thank you. Yeah. And again, go to my website. There's lots of free resources too. So, and blogs and whatever.
Yeah,
So, because I love this stuff. So, yeah.
wonderful. There's a question here as well. Is there a way for the donor to update the card info themselves, or do we have to enter the new card info like the new expiry date? Great question. As of right now, the way for a donor to be able to do it is you can direct them to a Bloomerang form that has the option for recurring. So that's great also if they're not just updating the card, but maybe they want to update the amount or they want to update the schedule itself. We don't have an updater per se, but what they can do is start a new recurring donation schedule with the new payment amount, with the new schedule, with the new card, and then you would just have to end the old one. I mean, the old one is not going to process anymore, but just to keep your data, your record keeping clean, to keep your records accurate, you can just end the old one. But that is a popular suggestion that we get, so I will make sure that gets to our product team as well. And if you're wondering how to end a recurring donation schedule, you just go to the schedule itself and there's a button, there's an area where you can type in a date for the end date and you can put that in there. Hopefully that's not going to happen to you unless they're going to upgrade.
We're going to talk about upgrade next. So,
yeah,
in the next session. So, yeah.
Absolutely. If as we dig in, we have a question here. If as we dig into the process, we find we have questions, philosophical or technical, about cultivating our recurring donors, can we reach out by email with a question? What's the best way to do that? We have a lot of resources, like Erica mentioned, on the Bloomerang blog, on Erica's website, which we'll link to in the email as well. Any technical questions, of course, you can just reach out to support@bloomerang.co. If you haven't tried it yet, try our chat function. You can start a chat directly from your database. You're going to get the quickest answer that way. And you're going to get a real person every time. I love saying that. That's the quickest way to get your question answered is through chat.
Yeah.
And they'll be able to direct you to a resource that's on our website, or if it's an additional class, or they'll help you right away if it's a how-to. But that's the quickest way that you can get an answer.
Yeah, we did do a cultivation loving your recurring donor session 2 weeks ago. So that is also in the Bloomerang Academy, right? So
Yes.
So I think donor you can access that. So.
I would love for all of you to email me, but I'm just one person and our support team is fantastic. So the quickest response, start a chat and they'll direct you to if they need to direct you to someone else, or if they can get the answer for you right away, that's the quickest way to get an answer. We have a question here. If you have Stripe and it'll update the card information, will you know so you don't make the call? Great question. Honestly, I'm not sure. That might be a better question for Stripe itself, but I'll see what we can find out.
Because if it goes through, it wouldn't have failed.
Exactly.
Right. So if it's in that 7-day retry period, it would say what was it like?
Yeah, if it's retrying,
Yeah.
then it'll just and the card's already been updated, it will just go ahead and process directly. So I
Then it's
guess
not failed. Then it's
yeah,
not
so
at
it's not
risk.
failed.
It's
Yeah.
not at risk. Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you for that question.
Great questions. Again, this is where the rubber meets the road. So, but yeah, there's a lot of, again, like I'm really impressed with the reports that Bloomerang has for that purpose, and having the annualized value at risk is great also.
And again, you share with us too, like what other reports you're running in your databases. These are some of the reports that we recommend that you use and that we've found to be helpful. But if there are other reports as well that you want to try and share with everyone, let us know. And I wanted to mention as well, our next class in the series is upgrading your recurring donors. I'm not seeing that up on our website yet, but that should be updated on our website this week. You'll also get a link to register for that when you get the recording to this one. So thank you very much. We still have a couple of minutes if there are any other questions.
Yeah, I mean, one person asked in the chat, like, has anybody had luck with Stripe's automatic updater? So that's the Stripe Connect piece. So again, sometimes it's just a timing issue, and it's not something Stripe can do something about it. Sometimes it's a credit card. The credit card company hasn't provided them with updated information yet. So there might be a little bit of a timing issue, yeah, with that, unfortunately. So that's why, again, like it's really a combination of credit card. I mean, my understanding is, and we were trying to get a good handle on, like, the credit card updaters that I'm hearing about from all the different systems, you're still getting about 30% of cards to actually process. So it's not 100% just because of that timing issue. Like, the card information might not have come through yet. When they were trying to process. So yeah, that's why that email, again, that's why it's great to get out ahead of the game. You have that option. So why not try to make sure that happens? And if you get the updated information from the donor, then it's not going to have to go through credit card updater because you already have their updated information and it processes automatically that way, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a great point too. Like other things, it's a tool, but it's not perfect. So you still want to, a lot of this still really depends on your relationship with the donor, right? The tool is there. It's great if it gets to auto update. If it doesn't catch it, it's still nice to reach out to the donor. And again, I really like seeing it as it's an extra touch point that you can do with the donor. Or maybe the card's already been updated. Just take a moment to say thank you for their
Yes.
recurring gift. Take a moment to tell them or let them know how their recurring giving has been making an impact. It's it's that extra touch point. Like you can still use it to engage and cultivate the donor.
Yeah. And again, if you call them to follow up, it's another great opportunity to say, why are you giving monthly? This is great. Oh, can we use that to reach out to other potential monthly donors, right? So so again, you're not a nag, you're doing the donor a service, and again, they are so grateful. You're very grateful to for their help. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Erica and I are going to keep talking.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
you don't stop us, we're just
Yeah.
going to keep like, of course you can call.
Yeah.
But really, this is something we really believe in, and that helps so much. So if we can help you in any way make this happen for you and make sure that it keeps happening for you, that's what we're here for. So thank you again, everyone, for all of your great questions today. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. We hope that this has been helpful for you. If there's anything else that you would like to know about, or anything, even if you just like to share, our doors are always open. Please let us
Yeah,
know.
I love feedback too. If you're starting to use some of the tools, I mean, absolutely let us know.
Yes.
Yeah, we learn
And
from you as just as much as you're learning from us. So
absolutely.
yeah,
So thank you again. We hope you have a great rest of your day. We hope to see you in the last of our recurring giving series, Upgrading Your Recurring Donors, and in other Academy classes. Have a lovely day.
have a great
Bye.
day. Bye.